Here we are. Hi everyone, and thanks a lot for joining us today. I'm gonna give you a short intro because what you've done in the past speaks for itself for all of you. So thanks a lot, team. Team Ash is one of my favorite CRO experts. I'm not gonna call you guru, team, if you if you don't mind. This label I will leave it for other people. Then we also have Tim Kilroy, which used to be an e-commerce manager, and he actually built 4 free agencies to help e-commerce companies, and now he's actually training agency owners. And Guido has this approach of mixing psychology with conversion rate optimization, and now he's here to talk about customer value optimization. Thanks all of you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure, running team.
Yeah, super excited to be here.
Let's start with the first question. How do you first encountered and how you first got in touch with the customer, with the concept of customer lifetime value and the importance of the customer lifetime value? And let's start with I'm not gonna say team. Let's start with Team Ash.
Yeah, it was really early on when I started my first agency around 2000 called Site Tuners. And we were trying to help optimize businesses and launch businesses in the early days of the .com era. And the problem was that people didn't even know what to optimize. So they said, we'll sell stuff, and that's the obvious thing. But they really weren't focused on lifetime value at all. And it was... we had to educate them about that. We've always had a strategic approach, and the problem, I think, is that the business owners didn't get it. And that's what I encountered that from day one in this industry.
Yeah. The other team?
Yeah, so early in my career, I always talked about customer lifetime value because it made me sound smart. Right? But I didn't really do much with it until I was the CMO of a fashion brand, and we were spending way too much money, not getting enough. And so we went crazy around conversion rate optimization. We dropped our customer acquisition cost, and things were amazing. And at the end of the quarter, the CFO, this really grumpy old guy, Rob, who only wore t-shirts that say "old guys rule," walked into my office and asked, "What the bleep are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know, increasing sales by 25%, decreasing cost by 33%, my job." He's like, "Listen, you are only selling things with low margin. All the sales are clearance. There's no profit. We are hemorrhaging money." I'm like, "But sales are up. Come on, dude. Isn't that what we're, that's what everyone's concerned about." It's like, "Please, we have to feed everybody." And so all of a sudden, it shifted for me that the transaction is like the transaction is your first date, right? It's like you just said, you ask them out and they're like, "Yes, let's go." And then but then if you don't follow it up, if you don't make the second call, if you don't send the text 3 days later, if you never go to the third date, nothing good ever happens. So that's when it really dawned on me that optimizing for the customer rather than the revenue was significantly more important.
Excellent.
Guido? And now, by the way, now that I am an old guy, old guys rule. So,
so Guido, you are muted. You need to unmute yourself. Sorry.
That sounds smart to me, Tim. So yeah, for for how companies work and how the e-commerce teams work, they start optimizing for what they are measuring, and a lot of those teams, they understand that it might not be smart or the smartest thing to start optimizing for example, just orders. But I've seen those teams optimizing for orders, and they just start giving discounts, and or there's this over representation of data on Google AdWords. So we focus on getting traffic and then forget what's happening on the website to start with. And when picking metrics like conversion or orders or even revenue, you can still end up discussing what it actually means. What are the decisions that we need to make after running this A/B test? Okay, we have increased the order numbers or increased the revenue. Do we actually need to implement this? It's still a discussion. With customer lifetime value, it makes sense for everyone. That you have much less discussion on what needs to be done.
Yeah, that is a fine thing to have, alignment within the company. Even though without the conflict and without the hiccups, we can't get there. So
yeah, less conflict.
Less, yeah, exactly. So the next question that I have for you all is, what do you think it keeps e-commerce managers from focusing on customer value optimization or customer lifetime value?
Yeah, I think I'll take off with what Guido was just talking about, which is that what gets measured gets done. The problem is most of the people doing optimization are tacticians. They're buried inside of the company. And I once had a client, we were talking about doing strategic conversion rate optimization for a multi-billion-dollar company, and he says to me, "Well, I think of CRO as a swim lane. We have SEO, we have PPC, and we have CRO. So basically, stay in your swim lane and in your little silo and do your little tactical thing." And so what I've always hated about the conversion rate optimization industry is this green button, orange button testing and stupid tactical stuff that's 90% of the activity that we do. And so I think it's not having the permission to have the larger picture, and it's not having the data and the numbers to back it up. One of the most painful things for me has always been saying, hey, what is your customer lifetime value? We literally asked that on day one when I ran my agency, and nobody can give you an answer. And we say, well, how about some assumptions? Let's use averages. Let's use historical data. And just pulling that information together across the company involved the CFO, the chief marketing officer, and nobody was responsible for having the right information to act on. And that's what keeps people, I think. The tactical mindset is a problem, and not having the right information. Those are the two biggies for me.
Yeah, it's often
for me.
Oh, go ahead, Tim. Tim wants me to go ahead, I think. So it's indeed the insights into, for example, profit or offline data, the things that you cannot include in usually Google Analytics. That's keeping those teams. They don't have access to that data. I've seen companies pouring millions into AdWords, and they know perfectly well how many leads that's getting them online, but they have no idea how many people actually buy the product which is done offline. And if you don't have that data, you're literally throwing away that money. You have no idea where it's going to. So those insights, the missing data in terms of profit or inclusion of other offline data is often missing. And I often see companies also where the offline part, especially when the website is based on is mainly lead generation, the offline part, like the salespeople or maybe the recruiters in when you're in the HR industry, they don't necessarily want to work with you to get that data because that's their job, and that's also something you need to consider in some companies.
But that's up to, I think this is available as the companies hire. I've been seeing this as well. As the companies are higher, it's like nobody knows what the company actually wants, and there's no high objective, and people are aligned. And that was eye-opening for me, because I've never worked within a large company. I've worked with large companies, and I've always thought that unless we know what's the KPI of that person and what the job requires for that person, we can't do anything. Even though it's better for the company to change things, to move things, to transform things, that person has the mindset of keeping their job and fulfilling their mission within the swim lanes that they got.
Right. I think to sort of the broad theme here is that we manage to the measurement rather than the mission. And I think that's and that's, I mean, that happens in all sorts of companies, but in e-commerce especially, where for the marketer, where actually probably for everybody except maybe the buyer in the company, the products are fairly abstract. It's not like you're in a store and you're touching this thing and feeling it. And so the thing is so abstract that the metrics become the mission rather than the metrics servicing the mission. And there's a lot of leadership that just doesn't articulate what they want their mission to be. And I think that is such a difficult and challenging environment. And I think a lot of leaders do that because they're afraid of misstating, misdirecting, whatever. So they leave the mission around growth rather than the mission around, profit or NPS or, customer happiness or repeat purchases or something that means that you're resonating. And they just tend to think about growth, which can be, as I just told you, completely unprofitable and disastrous.
Yeah. If we are to look at the current landscape, we are coming as an industry from an acquisition mindset where people were used to spend a lot of money, and they were used to, justify their existence by how money they've been able to spend. Like, what's your marketing budget? What's your marketing budget? So that is happening due to the same thing, Tim, I think, right? People are measuring their impact in the companies by how much they are spending, not how much they are making, or how happy the customers that they have are.
Right. It's assets under management thinking.
Yeah, the bottom line, as I always say, is the bottom line. It's how much profit the company makes in terms of financials. But Tim, I'd have a bone to pick with you about Net Promoter Score, or NPS, which you mentioned. We were working many years ago with Autodesk. They make AutoCAD software and a bunch of other software packages, and we improved one of the websites for one of their products. Literally did an A/B split test on a whole website and made them close to $40 million a year more. And they never implemented because they said, well, upper management just had a pivot and now we want to raise our Net Promoter Score by 2 points. I said, but we just made you $40 million and you don't want to implement that? It's not like it's going to lower your Net Promoter Score. But I think a lot of times people get lost in the weeds, and upper management has its own weird set of biases, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was struggling to find metrics that were meaningful there. And that are resonating, because it's really difficult to create an effective single metric that says you're doing the right thing by the customer.
I think it's a sustainable, reliable profit dollars. You can make profit dollars in a spike. There's a lot of people do launches and gimmicky things like we've talked about, but I think it's the sustainable profitability that should be the goal of any company financially. Well, there are
usually when I go to new clients, the first team I try to look for is actually the finance team, or just look for the CFO, and then ask them, what are you looking at? It's not conversion rates, I can tell you that. and ask them what they are looking for, what are they interested in, and that should give you a big hint on what you should be optimizing for.
Yeah, and I think another problem is that we focus on these kind of generic customers, like, okay, what's the average customer? Everything is averaged, and it's only when you start digging into the details that the money kind of comes out. We had one client sold very expensive barbecue grills and equipment, but it wasn't the kind of stuff you buy at Home Depot. It was make your own King of the Hill island entertainment center by your pool, buy $40,000 worth of appliances kind of buyer. And when we said, look, you need to have a white glove program just for those people, designing their stuff, finding local contractors for them to implement it, giving them price discounts, basically kissing their ass and handing them a really, really custom print piece that's got their quote and everything else in it, then they all of a sudden their profits skyrocketed, because someone that buys $40,000 from you is very different than someone that buys $1,500 from you. So I think another key is to really understand where the money is and in which customer segments you should be giving extra love to.
Right, and there is no, and I think your point about the average customer is so spot on, because there isn't an average customer. And even when you go to a sort of a very detailed or complex persona, when I was at Wayfair, we had Pat and Melissa. Pat was our 30-something male who was navigation driven, knew what he wanted, was looking at price, blah, blah, blah. And Melissa was 32 years old. She had a couple of kids. She was just out of the workforce. And so we had these like complex stories, and it did give us a framework to make decisions. Would Pat or Melissa like this thing? That helped us, but it did not help us segment our email or adjust our search messaging or our
personalize the website
display, right? So there, I think just like I'm going to jump into my first job out of college. I was a high school English teacher. So just like Walt Whitman's, when he contains multitudes and speaks barbaric yop over the rooftops of the world. Our average customer actually contains multitudes, and so that average customer really is a mosaic. It is complex, and there's actually dozens, if not hundreds, of kinds of customers inside of our AOV and our conversion rates.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to tackle all of those tiny little micro segments. I think that's one of the things we'd start talking about, one-to-one personalization, and only the most advanced clients that I've worked with can actually do that. I mean, but how about simple stuff like first-time visitor, return visitor? Don't have amnesia and forget what happened on the time somebody visited your website last time. So 100%. Simple segments like that can work really well.
And this is probably the moment that Valentin should teach us about RFM models and reveal where does it come in. The solution.
That's the mission, Guido. Now we're just seeing the peak of the mountain, but it's the mindset, changing the mindsets of the hippos takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and know-how from folks like you. So let me ask you something related to your to a story that you have around customer lifetime value. My own story was that I was an e-commerce entrepreneur. We were wasting all our budget on Google AdWords. Even though we've got 85 employees, we weren't making money like the highest employee that we got at that time. The conversion rate was flat, the ROI was negative, we had a lot of competition, and we thought what we should do, how can we go out of this trap? It was like we've built a monster and now we are working for 14 hours, and it was maybe better to get hired at a multinational. So that made us think about measuring the best customers. And after we've made that exercise, I was in the online insurance. After we made that exercise, we were realizing which were our best customers. And suddenly we came up with something like a real-time discount model that was triggered based on the car model. So based on the car model, you got a certain spending potential on our website. So that completely destroyed the competition because it was a very competitive market, and we've been able to trigger discounts exactly like to remain profitable. Not only that, we've improved our our customer acquisition by focusing on the folks that got bigger cars. That means more money for us.
No, I think you just should have raised venture capital, and then you could have kept on losing money forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the key that one of the other themes underneath all of this that we're talking about is, I think, speaking the language of money. We keep talking about the hippo. I mean, hopefully you're talking to senior people at the company and they only speak one language, and that's money. So when you have tools like Reveal, which, you know, I've used already and seen the output of, you're in a way more powerful than the CFO or the CMO. You're bringing them insights about the business that they can't easily get without going to the business intelligence team and large companies and running complicated reports or having them custom made. So I think if you want a seat at the big kids table, the adults table, actually, you have to start speaking about money. And one of the other mistakes that marketers and optimizers make is they're talking about, like we said, all their weird little intermediate KPIs and not about money, because I don't care unless it's about money if I have a C attached to my title.
Right. And I think, honestly, if you are a CMO, the last person you want to ask for help is the CFO, because he will start to say no to your budget-o. So you know, if you were the CMO, you want to sort of maintain your autonomy, and if you can bring in real insight into the business and real insight about the customer to your C-suite compatriots, then you know, politically speaking, you have just stepped up and turned marketing from a vague C-suite to a partner in the C-suite.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of it is about politics and who has what title inside the company, right? So the more information you have under your control that originates from inside of your department, the more power you have. And so, like I said, all of a sudden, you don't have to go ask finance for something. Now you can just tell them what it is, in fact, with more clarity than they're able to reveal, pardon the pun.
Or tell them that they're wrong. That's cool.
Yeah, in many companies, marketing is just seen as a big pile of cost, right? And that's a big issue here. And then often when optimizers, a lot of CRO specialists, they work within a marketing department, which always feels a bit weird to me. It should be, for me, it feels like it should be the product department, but yeah, depends on the product and the company, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think marketing, as I think somebody famously put it, is the responsibility of everyone in the organization. So if you have a department and nobody else is thinking about optimizing the business, that's a problem. The biggest wins we had when I was running my agency was actually things that had nothing to do with the online experience. Like we would say, hey, let's fix your email sequences. Or, hey, have you thought about putting a subscription little flyer inside the box that you send to people with the product? Yeah. Or one of the biggest ones we had was actually we realized that they had really good product knowledge for their call center people, but they didn't know how to sell at the call center. So without disturbing their web sales at all, we came in and did a 1-week sales training for their 60 people in the call center and bumped call center sales by 15%. That was the biggest payoff. It had nothing to do with the website, you know. But so you have to optimize the whole business, and everybody has to be thinking about it like that.
That's a great insight, Tim, and thanks for mentioning it. Do you all think that CRO has this route of becoming something more strategical that helps optimize the whole business by having this data-driven approach and feeding the senior management with the insights from the customers, the product, the customer behavior? Or do you think CRO will stick to the fixing the websites, which should have been made properly from the very beginning?
Well, I hope not. I hope the first part, yeah. And I think we have to. I mean, a lot of CROs are struggling because of this. Because they don't take that more holistic overall approach and stick with, like Tim just said, changing button colors. Well, a lot of the professionals are not changing button colors, but they are focused still very narrowly on the website usually, and not including what happens when the package is delivered, or what happens when you send an email, or when you call customer service. Those are all parts of that and that customer experience that you need to optimize for, and you need to focus on those bottlenecks wherever they are.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of get rid of the C in CRO, and maybe it needs to be PRO, so process revenue improvement, right? Or optimization.
That's
right?
a long discussion, Tim.
When we started, like when I wrote my book, it was the Google popularized the term landing page optimization, and I hated it. But the publisher made me make that as the title, and I think that's just so stupid. But what are you going to do?
You can't fix the past. You can't optimize the past. Yeah. So moving a bit further, what is the best, let's say, indicator that a company is going well besides customer lifetime value from your perspective, or what kind of, let's say, complementary KPIs do you think e-commerce owners should be looking at besides customer lifetime value from your perspective?
Well, I'll take a run at that. I think that it's not even, in a way, dashboards or KPIs. It's really thinking about how the company is structured. So I'm just going to answer that in a different direction. What's going to determine your success is where optimization reports within the company. What you said was very important. Like if you're going to stay tactical and you're within online marketing, Guido, you said maybe it doesn't even belong in marketing. That's a great point. If you don't have a champion at an upper management level, then you have a big problem. If you're not reporting up to that level, you have a big problem. I had a friend of mine, Joe Megabau. He ran optimization within Expedia, and he reported directly to the president of Expedia, and eventually grew that department. And their goal was really, really conservative, 5% improvement through optimization. Except Expedia was a $20 billion company. So that extra billion kind of helps. But the point is, if he didn't report to the president of Expedia, none of that would have happened.
All right, Tim, so you threw out like the billion number, so that makes everything else we're going to say seem ridiculous.
Well, I didn't make that billion for Expedia, to be clear. We just worked with it.
But I think you're right about the organizational issue. But I think and I think the reason why Expedia had the optimization folks report to the president was cultural. And I think I think really when it gets right down to it, it is a culture built around improvement, not necessarily growth, right? And so processes need to get better, experiences need to get better, reporting needs to get better, people need to get better. And I think the metrics that we really need to think about are somehow related to process and mission rather than, and that's totally squishy and not actionable for everybody listening, but be creative. That's what you guys do.
Well, the customer lifetime value is the metric, Valentin. There is nothing more sacred on the financial side within the company. The analogy that I like to use is back when I first came to college, I had a Mazda 626. It had 1.5 liter engine, about 80 horsepower. Then I went to the racetrack and I watched Formula One cars. They also had a 1.5 liter engine putting out about 1,000 horsepower. Same displacement. And the difference is that those were carefully blueprinted and every little part was optimized. So I don't think you fix a business by having some big split testing success. If the email sequence is improving, the returns process improves, and the customer communication improves, and the website personalization improves, all of those little improvements all add up to customer lifetime value and profit improvements. And so that's the metric everyone should be looking at, I believe.
Guido, what's your take on this?
I think I totally agree with what Tim and Tim just said. I think, but in addition to that, maybe an important thing, especially what's been important the last couple of months, is how fast you can move as a company, how fast you can change, how fast you can look at that customer data and adapt either your product, your services, the way you communicate. That can be for many companies that has been a life or death. Well, in terms of company life or death of the company situation.
Yeah, I have let's say a challenge for you now that we're all live. I'm really excited about this conversation because there are so many angles, and it's like this is music to my ears. And I have let's say a challenge to have for all of you. What if we'll come back every month to have this conversation after we explore how this customer value optimization process goes for us? We have a lot of companies starting. We have generated a lot of demand. And what if we can have this chat so that we can, let's say, change the mindset? Because all that you've told is that customer value is result of aligning the company towards the customer and improving not only the website, which is a channel that could be fantastic, but if the returns are not working, if everything else around the marketing department is not working, you can't fix a company. So the assumption is that the companies are actually broken or should be fixed. And that comes with changing the mindset. And in order to change the mindset, we need to educate e-commerce managers and owners. So my challenge for you is, what if we'll do this as a, I don't know, series, like in Netflix, instead of having just a single movie? Are you in?
Yeah, if we can have Netflix, if we can have a Netflix budget. Sure. Like some nice effects. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely all in.
Tim?
Yes, me too.
Nothing like peer pressure, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So, guys, we touched the part of culture. We've touched the part of I don't know, acquisition, hypnosis, and obsession. We touched the part of overview, but we don't touch the part of, okay, how a company actually fixes this. Where do you propose to your customers or partners to start from?
This is where we say install, reveal. Right? No, but I think getting those one of the problems we spoke about is that the companies don't have the insights or in their finance. So that's the thing that you need to fix. That the teams that make those decisions on what's happening, for example, online on your website, that they do know what is the profit, what is the customer lifetime value. Like Tim said, it's the first question you ask, but hardly anyone has the answer. That's something that you need to fix.
Tim?
I would, which you said you wouldn't do that. Which Tim?
Tim from above, let's say.
Tim from above. Tim Kilroy, please.
Oh, you know what? I'll be honest. I got a text and I was multitasking, so I didn't actually hear the question. Sorry.
Okay, so the question was, where do you start from to optimize customer lifetime value?
Oh, I think that you start with purchase. You know, you start thinking about it. As a matter of fact, you can probably forget about everything backwards, because it's way easier to think forwards than to retrofit backwards. But you start thinking about, you know, are your customers buying the things that you're advertising or merchandising? So you have to make sure that I would start to make sure that there's a fit there, because oftentimes you're merchandising stuff that doesn't sell. So I'd start there and then think, how do we optimize that layer? And then we start thinking about, how do we optimize the thing that the customer who has just purchased, what do they need next? what should their next email be? What should their next their next retargeting message be? And so if we can sort of think about it specifically from the client perspective and sort of be empathetic and really think about it that way and think about, okay, if I were this person, what would I need in order for me to take the next desired action?
Team Ash, what's your take on this?
Well, one of the things that we did as an agency and that I do individually as part of my ongoing executive advisory work is come up with digital strategies for e-commerce companies. So I can speak to my framework. Number one, and this has been always the most difficult thing, is get the data, right? And so you've essentially solved that. As far as I'm concerned, I got goosebumps when you showed me Reveal. It's almost like X-ray vision and unfair competition that none of your competitors can do anything about. The next thing to focus on is the customer journey. Not just will they buy from me today, but how do you support them at the earlier stages of the sales funnel when it's just informational and you can't make a penny off of it? But how do you lock in loyalty? How do you educate them? How do you make them feel comfortable? If you're ignoring that early part of the customer journey, squeezing the bottom of the sales funnel to hope money comes out is a big mistake. You're leaving most of the value on the table. The next thing I would look at for e-commerce specifically is the product line. A lot of times people are really proud. We're like the Amazon of our niche, whatever that is. We have 400 different things that are essentially all the same. Well, that's a problem. You need to trim down your product line, reduce choice, come up with value-added private label stuff, and really rethink that. That's often a huge problem in e-commerce companies. They think selection is king, and it's not. It's actually breaks everything. The next thing you need to do is figure out the strategy and what initiatives you should be working on over the next couple of years. And finally, at the implementation level, it's the culture, like we've talked about. Is there siloing inside your company? Are there turf wars? Is there risk aversion? Cooperation, all of those things. How do you actually implement those strategic initiatives? So the data, the customer journey, the product offering, the strategy, and the culture.
Perfect. I really appreciate that you have this process outlined, and it makes a lot of sense because this is including the customer itself and also the company structure over there. However, what we've discovered, because we've got a lot of experiences with companies, mid-size or larger companies, for us, the sweet spot right now are the mid-size companies. Those are the best to work with because there aren't all these decision levels and all these internal politics that I think they are fine, but maybe this is maybe a reflection of the fact that the world itself needs to be reorganized. But there is a lot of, let's say, opposition. It feels like you're dancing with an elephant. You are so agile and you identify things, and then when you try to push them, you have your internal champion that is somewhere and in the hierarchy, and but he's not able to do anything. So it's like you're more closer, and he's more closer to your point of view than the point of view of the companies with him. So the question is how you move the needle for bigger organizations, unless you talk with the CEO, like you've mentioned earlier, Team Ash.
Well, I think it's in the cop movies. You have during interrogation, good cop and bad cop. I think you need both. You need a good cop that has the working relationship and is going to implement this, and you need a bad cop that comes in and smacks them in the face and says, "Look, the emperor has no clothes," and your software gives the opportunity to do that. But I think you really need to separate those two roles. Unless you rub enough salt into the wound and you say, look how bad things are, look how much money we're losing, look how much opportunity we're leaving on the table, nobody will want to do anything about it. But so you need somebody that's like the negative person that goes around and says, things are really bad, the sky is falling, look at this data. Guido, is that you? You're raising your hand. Perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tim,
you're
you're
separated from the people that are going to be rebuilding it and putting Humpty Dumpty together again. Sorry, go ahead, Guido.
No, that was just just saying that's me. Starting out with pointing out what's wrong, and then but of course pointing out what we can do about it later.
Yeah, coming up with a strategy to fix it.
Okay, so Tim Kilroy, do you have a point of view around this, let's say, endeavor? Because you've worked actually in large companies, and you had this. How do you call that? What is the name, Bob, or no?
Yeah. So you as a service provider. So if you're an agency or a consultant or whatever, you need to make sure that your champion has enough juice to get done what you need to get done. And so as an agency owner or a service provider or as a technology marketing tech provider, you really have got to elevate your strategic relationship with the client so that when you bring Guido in and he says, you're all terrible, and Tim saying, like, I've got the plan, you've got to be addressing that to the right person who can organize the troops. So it is super important as service providers to sort of, and actually even as internal marketers, it's really important to be able to put this into the language that the people with the power to organize the troops can understand. And so I think that's really, really powerful. They don't need to know the details. They need to know why it's imperative.
I have a last question to ask you. So from your perspective, as we are in the making of this product, our go-to-market strategy is pretty clear. We give away the product for free for Shopify, no barriers to entry. I got a lot of extremely positive feedback around Reveal. Like I've been doing maybe 60 calls in the last 30 days with various e-commerce owners from the mid-size category, which again I love the most because they are flexible and they can actually get things done like this. And I got this kind of feedback like we're like a drug dealer. We give away all this crazy thing, and then in 6 months they will become addicted. So until the end of the year, Omniconvert Reveal is for free for Shopify. So, but we need to craft the product roadmap, and we have all these directions, and prioritization is key, right? Because if it's like in math, if you don't have the right order, but you have the right operations, you don't have the best result. From your perspective, because all of you understand what we're doing here, what it should be the next step that we should be doing? Of course, we are listening to our customers, we are prioritizing their feedback, but from your let's say insights as professionals, which I strongly admire, what is your what would you do if you were us here at Omniconvert?
Well, usually what I think that the most people are when they get more data is, okay, now what's the next step? What do I actually need to do? What are the actions that need to follow? And I think that's an important part that I'm not sure. And it's a really difficult one, but it still requires some creativity and intelligence there. It's really hard to build an AI to be doing that. But if you can do that, I'll be out of a job. So I'd say work on that.
Yeah. Tim Kilroy, what's your?
Yeah, I think the most you have to bridge the gap between interesting data and actionable data, and most marketers look at all kinds of data and they're like, oh, interesting. And so what we need to do is exactly as Guido says, like, or as you said, we got to figure out how to bubble something up so that it makes sense, or to say, like, of all the things that are happening here, like, this is the one you should pay attention to today. We're not going to tell you how to fix it because that's your deal, but like, these are the metrics that are, or these are the trends that are out of line with the aggregated data.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say three things here. One is you kind of asked, how can I make my software better? So this is a couple ideas in those directions. One is the cohort analysis is really important. In other words, if two groups of people, we're going to treat them differently, and over time, how much money are they worth, right? Basically, it's split testing the whole business. Whatever changes they're going to make, just however differently you treat people, not just the web experience, that's really strong backup. So if we do this, look, it's this much better. Again, making it externalizable and financial is really, really important. Then we know the value of the changes that we're tinkering with. The other thing is different dashboards. The ones that the operational guys need inside of marketing, they are definitely different than the dumbed down financial reports that the C-suite needs. So just say, here's the simple one for the C-suite. Just give them the essentials, don't overload them with data. And I think all of that goes back to, there is no magic bullet here. You've, like I said, created this X-ray vision of what's wrong. To fix it, you're going to need a strategy. And usually what the companies are missing is not the arms and legs and the implementers. It's really a good sense of the strategy. So there's the diagnosis, then there's the prescription that the strategy person or agency has to give them. And then there's the cure, which is to implement it inside the company.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So I think we are approaching the end of this session. Unfortunately, Chanel from Shopify texted me. She had a fire alarm in her building. She's outside the building. She can't make it, so we can't optimize for that. But she said hi to everyone here, and she apologized. So the last question for you out there: what is your message? So you have 1 minute to give away your message to e-commerce managers and owners to shift their attention to customer value optimization. Guido, you're the first.
Well, now that you have Reveal installed, so you have those insights, start building on that culture, and based on what Tim has said, get yourselves aligned, get management aligned, what actually needs to happen in your business, and start building that culture where people are happy to try things, happy to experiment, using that data. Don't be afraid to fail with running experiments, giving those new ideas, and start running on that culture that you have in your digital marketing team or in your whole company, where people are happy to embrace the data and play around with that.
Great. So Tim Kilroy, you're next.
So I think what we really want out of this is Reveal allows us to have data-powered empathy. And that's really, really powerful, because if you understand the actions of the people that you want to engage with, then you can then deliver them better opportunities to engage. And I think that really is the primary and most powerful piece here, is that this data allows you to unlock your empathy as a human being and make yourself into a better marketer. Perfect.
Dimash, you're next.
Oh, well, I would say that the beginning of what Tim said is the focus for me, which is like focusing on the customer. If you're talking about customer lifetime value, I think there's not enough focus on customers. There's not enough understanding of how human beings in general make decisions. I ran my agency, we documented 1.2 billion over so many years in value for our clients. Most of that came from neuromarketing, from the durable stuff that you can understand. How do human brains work? How we evolved, how we're motivated. So I think most marketers are focused on the technology and not the psychology or the evolution or any of those things. And I just wrote a new book about that called Unleash the Primal Brain, if you go to primalbrain.com. But I think the training needs to be in not thinking about the inside of your company, but inverting that and thinking only about the needs of your customers. And they're human beings first and foremost. So understanding psychology is the most important thing I think you can do to improve things.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks a lot, team. Thanks a lot, Guido. That was it for us today. Fingers crossed for your endeavors towards customer value optimization. And I have a last word to tell. After 3 years of working at Reveal, I must say thank you to my team at Omniconvert. It was a hard road, and here we are launching it with the fact that you've been together with me, the fact that you've bared with me with all my let's say stubborn ideas and crafting the product, this and that, and in this manner, it's outstanding. It shows that you are really valuable individuals, and thanks a lot. And kudos to my team at Omniconvert for supporting me and optimizing me for being a better person. And for you out there, e-commerce managers, our intention here is to help you improve customer lifetime value, help you understand your customers better. And stay tuned, because I'm going to persuade these outstanding guys to give away more insights towards how to actually make this happen. So it's coming up a course around customer value optimization. It's coming up a certification program. So if you're an agency or an e-commerce, stay tuned to Omniconvert. That was it from my end. And thanks a lot, everyone, for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Did you know that 95% of all purchase decisions are made subconsciously? This is because humans act on emotions rather than on reason. Our actions tend to be based on our best and worst memories, not the average ones. Since we live in the experience economy, your e-commerce must be nothing short of obsessed with customer experience. Let's see why. Better customer experience leads to two things: customer retention and word-of-mouth recommendations. Word of mouth leads to lower customer acquisition costs and, in turn, better margins. Higher customer retention leads to higher lifetime value. Ultimately, better customer retention and stronger advocacy result in sustainable growth. Although Google Analytics lets you monitor user experience, it does not tell you anything about your real customers. Omniconvert Reveal gives you much greater power by allowing you to monitor and improve customer experience through connecting the dots.